A queen just fed the richest people in Westeros a plate of rats, and somehow, that wasn't even the worst thing that happened to her this week. Because while Rhaenyra Targaryen was busy proving she could outpower the nobles who'd been starving her city, someone far more dangerous was already 3 steps ahead of her, and she wouldn't find out until it was too late to stop him. By the end of House of the Dragon's 3rd episode of Season 3, the woman sitting on the Iron Throne discovers that the boy she brought home as a hostage, the boy she almost had killed out of grief and rage, isn't who everyone thinks he is. And that single deception unravels a plan that's been building since the moment the episode began. Today we're breaking down exactly what happened, why it matters so much more than it seems on the surface, and why the man behind this trick might be the smartest player left in this entire war. Let's start with the throne Rhaenyra actually inherited, because it turns out winning a crown and being able to use it are 2 very different things. When Rhaenyra took the Iron Throne, she assumed she was stepping into power. What she actually stepped into was a mess nobody had cleaned up in years. The treasury is empty. Nobody, not Orwyle, not Alicent, not Helena, has any idea where the gold went, which means there's no coin for a coronation and no coin to pay the soldiers keeping her alive. The city is starving because her own blockade cut off the food supply that used to flow through King's Landing. And now there's no game left to hunt and no bread left to bake. Rats are everywhere, gnawing candles down to nothing because even the tallow is being eaten. And the High Septon, the one man who could make her rule official in the eyes of the gods, won't anoint her because he isn't fully convinced Aegon is actually dead. This is the part viewers often skip past too quickly, but it's the emotional engine of the entire episode. Rhaenyra spent years fighting for this throne. Now that she has it, she's discovering that a crown doesn't fix anything. It just hands you every problem your predecessor ignored, plus a few new ones. And the way she chooses to solve her first crisis tells you everything about who she's becoming. Rather than wait for tributes to trickle in from across the 7 kingdoms, or for Daemon to shake gold loose from the Eyrie, Rhaenyra acts on a tip from Sylvie. The nobles of King's Landing have been hoarding food while the small folks starve. So she throws a banquet. She invites every wealthy family in the city, lets them believe they're there to pledge loyalty and enjoy her favor, and while they're seated at her table, she sends the gold cloaks to raid their homes. The accusation turns out to be completely true. There's more than enough food hidden away in those houses to feed the entire starving city. And then comes the moment that's going to stick with viewers long after the episode ends. She serves the nobles' rats, cooked and plated like a delicacy, as a way of telling them exactly what she thinks they are. It's a brutal, almost theatrical piece of symbolism. The wealthy have always looked down on the poor, comparing them to vermin, to rats scurrying in the walls. Rhaenyra flips that insult back onto the people who actually caused the infestation in the first place. The rat problem was never really about rats. It was a symptom of hoarded wealth and abandoned responsibility, and she makes sure the people responsible taste that truth directly. Here's a question worth sitting with. Is this the move of a ruler who understands her people, or the first crack in a queen who's starting to enjoy humiliating the powerful a little too much? Because when she hands out the recovered food to the starving crowds outside, and they cheer her as a savior, Mysaria leans in with a quiet observation, that this kind of love from the people means more than any blessing from the High Septon. It's a lovely sentiment. It's also worth wondering whether Mysaria means it as genuine counsel, or as a quiet campaign to make sure she, not Daemon, becomes the voice Rhaenyra trusts most. Daemon is out chasing war and conquest. Mysaria is here, in the halls of the Red Keep, reflecting Rhaenyra's own priorities right back at her. That's not a coincidence. But food only lasts so long, and Rhaenyra's blockade is still choking off the trade routes that would actually solve the hunger crisis long term. If those routes don't reopen soon, this victory evaporates, and the same people cheering her today will remember exactly whose decision caused the famine in the first place. While that crisis was unfolding inside the castle, an entirely different kind of tension was building with the one-man Rhaenyra genuinely owes her throne to. Corlys Velaryon lost everything for this war. His seat, High Tide, is gone. His ship is gone. His wife died fighting for Rhaenyra's cause. All he has left to give his sons, Alyn and Addam, born outside of marriage but undeniably his, is the Velaryon name. As queen, Rhaenyra has the power to legitimize them instantly. Instead, she stalls. When the knighting ceremony happens, she deliberately styles Addam as Addam of Hull, rather than Addam Velaryon, a quiet but unmistakable snub. Corlys doesn't take it quietly. He reminds her in one of the episode's sharpest and most uncomfortable confrontations that her own children were born the exact same way. Lucerys was a bastard. Jacaerys lived and died a bastard. Joffrey is a bastard right now, sitting somewhere in that same castle. So why do his sons get denied what her sons were always given without question? Rhaenyra never answers him directly, and that silence is the real answer. This isn't really about legitimacy at all. It's about legacy. If Addam and Alyn become Velaryons, they become the rightful heirs to Driftmark, which threatens the inheritance she's been quietly protecting for her own children with Daemon, and for Baela and Rhaena, who carry Velaryon blood through their mother Laena. Rhaenyra needs to look strong right now, in the earliest, most fragile days of her reign, and she's decided that strength means keeping tight control over who inherits what, even at the cost of the loyalty of the one lord she cannot afford to lose. Because here's the trap she's built for herself. She can't push Corlys away, since she needs Addam's dragon in this war. And Corlys can't defect to the Greens either, since a man who bled for the Blacks isn't exactly a trusted ally on the other side. They're stuck with each other, and neither one is happy about it. Now here's where the episode saves its real gut punch for the very end. When Daemon flew to confront Ormund Hightower, the surrender seemed almost too easy. Ormund kneels, agrees to hand over Tumbleton, and even gives up his ward without a fight when Daemon demands a hostage. Prince Daeron, Alicent's youngest son by Viserys, along with his dragon Targaryen. Daemon flies home triumphant, convinced the war is basically finished. Criston Cole's forces are weak. Aegon is broken. Aemond is dangerous, sure, but he's one rider against an entire fleet of loyal dragons, now under Rhaenyra's banner. Except the boy Daemon brought home isn't Daeron at all. The moment Alicent lays eyes on him, her confusion says everything. And when Rhaenyra corners the boy, he confesses. Ormund dyed his hair silver and threatened to have his real mother executed if he ever broke character. The entire surrender was a performance. Ormund never gave up his prince or his dragon. He kept both and used a frightened, silent stand-in to buy himself something far more valuable: time and Rhaenyra's false confidence. Because while everyone in King's Landing was celebrating a war that seemed all but over, Ormund Hightower was taking Tumbleton, a major town sitting right on the border between the Crownlands and the Reach, and the real Daeron was there the entire time, riding Targaryen behind those walls. This is the kind of twist that recontextualizes everything that came before it. Ormund isn't just some cornered lord bending the knee to survive. He's playing a much longer, much colder game, one that understands exactly how Rhaenyra thinks. He's betting that her instinct will be rage, that she'll want to burn Tumbleton to the ground in retaliation, only to be talked down by her own dragon keeper, who reminds her that an aerial assault would slaughter her own people along with the enemy. Ormund may be counting on that hesitation, on making her look weak and reactive in front of a court that's already questioning whether a woman with a temper like hers should be sitting on that throne at all. So ask yourself this: what does Ormund actually want? Is this simply about buying time until Daeron can ride into battle properly? Or is there a far bigger demand coming? Safe passage for Alicent and Helena? Or something even more audacious, like a claim to the throne itself on Daeron's behalf? And knowing what we know about the history of this war, knowing that Tumbleton is a name that echoes forward into betrayal and fire, how much of what's coming next was already set in motion the moment Ormund made his switch? Here's the discussion question worth leaving in the comments. Do you think Rhaenyra's instinct for revenge is going to get in the way of the level-headed leadership she needs right now? Or is her ruthlessness, the rats, the raid, the willingness to almost execute a child hostage, exactly the kind of hard edge required to survive a war like this one? Because if there's one thing this episode makes painfully clear, it's that Rhaenyra Targaryen didn't just inherit a throne. She inherited a game she's still learning the rules to, against a man who's been playing it his entire life. And the scariest part isn't that Ormund fooled her once. It's that she still doesn't fully understand why. If this breakdown helped make sense of everything happening beneath the surface, hit like, subscribe for more House of the Dragon coverage, and share it with someone who's just as obsessed with this story as you are.